Welcome to Atikin Plays Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. All right, hi, this is Atikin, and welcome to Series 3, Episode 5 of Workers and Resources, Soviet Republic. Now, in Episode 4, we got our clothing business going, and we saw the benefits of having clothing exports as well as having clothing supplied to our two shopping centers. So we're now supplying clothing to all our folks and making some money on exports. I've gone ahead and played a little bit more. I was kind of noodling around with where do I want to go next, and there's two obvious things that I want to do in terms of cost control. So let's kind of look at the finances first and see what's going on. So let's take a look at last month. You see we only made $18,000 profit, but look at the what we're starting to get in terms of revenue. We did 53,000 rubles in clothes and 34,000 in alcohol and another 26,000 in food. But if we look at our import costs during that same period, we see that we imported 22,000 in crops and 45,000 in fabric. So if you take those two, if you remember that 22 for crops, 45 for fabric, and go back to our sales, the crop imports are covered by our food with a little extra. So that means that basically the alcohol is profit, if you want to think of it that way. So our trade surplus. So we're making 40,000 to the good on the import and export that's needed to support this. Now that's not accounting for all of our other expenses, you know, the power and the fuel for the trucks and what have you, but and the imports of all the other things we need, like electronics and meat. But it does say that when you're looking at food and alcohol and the crops that they need, we are doing well on them. Our clothing, though, was about, 45, I think, for the fabric. We only cleared 8,000 rubles. That's really not enough to even help us with all of our other finances. So what I want to tackle in this one is cost reduction. I want us to start making our own fabrics and lowering the cost of the imports by pushing the imports back. And here's what I mean by that. If we look at the clothes, we are paying, per ton of fabric, we're paying $5.18 plus a small delivery charge. Small delivery charge because we're intentionally building everything right near the border. So short haul, but it costs us a fair amount. 8 tons, 44,000. It's costing us, like 520, let's call it, rubles per ton of fabric that we're importing. We're doing that on two different clothing factories. But if we look at fabric factory, which is what this is going to be. This is going to be a fabric factory connected to these two clothing factories through a warehouse. And the fabric factories, the import cost on it, I can't show it to you yet, but it's going to be, we can kind of guesstimate it. It's going to be a higher value than this 1818 for chemicals. So each ton of chemicals is going to cost us, that's called 2,000 rubles, which is a lot. And then we have to import some crops at 2150 a ton, plus the small delivery fee. But we could call it, it's really not too, it's probably 1,900 here and call it 22 for that. That'll do. But if we look at the output of a fabric factory and what it needs as an input, we can see here that it will produce 5 fabric, and for every 5 fabric it needs 20 tons of crop, which are pretty cheap, and those expensive chemicals, it only needs a half a ton of chemicals for every 5 fabric. So for a ton of chemicals at 1,900, it could make 10 fabric. Well, that's 1,900, let's call it, for the chemicals, and 10 fabric. Well, 10 fabric over here is going to cost us where are my math skills when I need them? Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, it's going to cost us 4 to 5,000 rubles. So 4 to 5,000. Did I do that right? I'm sorry. I had a little brain fart there for a second. Half a ton costs 19. Ton is 1,900. Half a ton. A ton is 19. Yeah. It's 1,900 plus. So for about 2,000 in imports, we can make our fabric, rather than 10,000 in imports for our clothing, which is going to save us, pardon the pun, a ton of money. So we're going to get those fabrics done and push our imports back one more. And then the other thing we're going to do to cut down on our imports, I'll show you how we're going to fix this, set this up in a second. The other thing we're going to do is expand our farming capability. We just recently added new fields here. And a couple quick comments. One of you commented that I had cut myself off from this line down here. I knew I was doing that when I set these up. I should have commented on it at the time. I do not see this line. Remember, I was saying way early, I wanted to save space for a line coming down through here like this that could go out and be used for exporting or exporting into Karabagh. I don't see that happening now, particularly with all these farms out here. I would see if anything from way down here needed to be exported, it's much more likely to go over here to Pardu, whatever that is, which is much closer, or to Zahalis over here. That's much more likely scenario than having a line running through there. That's number one. So I did that. I knew I was blocking off that little pass that I had carefully created. But number two is, even if later down the road we said, oh, we really do want that train line, well, we delete 3 fields and put them back somewhere else, and the only thing we lose is maybe some production that was on the fields themselves. So that's the deal with that thing. But anyway, where was I going? So we expanded this, and then over here, check this out. I want to see what happens when you have large fields connected to a farm. So we've got a new agro farm we're going to build right out here. In fact, I've already wired it up. A new agro farm putting into a silo here with a gas station. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 large fields and 1 medium field. I did have a large in there, but I realized it was kind of infringing on what I wanted to do here. And now that I look at it, maybe, no, it won't quite fit. The road and everything would mess it up. But that's okay. So we got 10 large and a medium. And I will tell you, I'm glad you didn't see it, but I terraformed this area right here for a long time, trying to flatten it out because I wanted to put one more large field up here, and it just wouldn't go. And I started to put a medium in, but then with all that terraforming, I built a hill here. It's just a pain. So we're going to go with the 10. I want to see what happens when we have 10 large fields and 1 medium field served by a farm right here. And we could even throw some more fields up here if we want to. We could even go further out this way, and even back here, although that might be getting, I don't know. Nah, back here would not be bad. It would not be bad at all. If we knocked down one, built a road, scooted everything over, we could have a whole new set. But let's see what happens with the 10 first. And we'll take this output and use trucks to haul it probably into the food. It would be shorter to haul it to the fabric, but we'll probably haul it to the food. And we could have a few that hauled to the fabric. It doesn't matter. But, they're all importing crops, so whatever we can cut down on the crop import, it doesn't matter which one it is so much. It's probably more expensive here than that one, so maybe the fabrics do make sense. All right, so that's the idea, is cut down on our import costs by creating our own fabrics and importing the chemicals and crops that go with it, rather than importing the fabrics. And in order to make this work, I've added 2 flats. These are the, I think they hold about 128 a piece, one in that ballpark. So 132, about 260 capacity, 270, whatever, something like that. And the fabric factory needs 100 workers total, in a perfect 100%, which is 300 workers covering the 3 shifts. So these 2 here should do a good job staffing that, and we'll probably will even specifically assign these 2 to work here. To make sure they don't wander off and work up this way, and we don't get good participation in our fabrics. All right, so there's the plan. And we will continue to export by truck out of here. And the other thing I didn't mention. This was hard for me. This was very hard for me. I do like trains. And it's one of the things that drew me to the game, trains. And remember, we built this nice little thing here so that we could use all 3 of these platforms at Cara de Bog and all that stuff. And I finally realized, you know what? We don't have 4 distilleries pumping out alcohol at an amazing rate. We have 1, and we have 1 food factory, and it's not even using the train. So scratch the train. So I unloaded the train for one last time, sent it back to the depot, sold it off for a lot of money. They're expensive. Replaced it with a couple of much cheaper trucks that just go here, grab alcohol and take it to Cara de Bog. It's working beautifully. We're getting good steady flow of alcohol exports, food exports, and clothing exports, and we've cut our delivery costs way down. So basically for me, it was take the emotion out of the decision, throw away your precious train, and do the right thing by using trucks to haul this, because you're just not producing fast enough. Don't worry, we will have trains later on. I can see us getting into a big oil refinery with lots of oil being shipped around, because we've got that $2 million revenue surplus goal that we need to hit. And we've already marched through into 1962. All right. Is that enough talking for one time? So we've got 75,000. Why didn't I just let that run? I'm sorry. I should have let that run. We need to build up a little more cash. It's going to cost us, I've calculated, about $55,000 to build this and these connections that we'll need, and that'll give us the factory. Then these are only going to cost us about 10,000 rubles each to build it, and I've got it set to bring in no recruits, no immigrants, but then we'll have to start bringing in the immigrants as we have the funds. And there's no point in building this until we can build all of this and get some immigrants, because otherwise, nobody's going to work over there. So why don't we let this run until we have about 100,000, and then we'll get into the fabric business. So I'll be right back. I'll just let it run until we build up to about 100,000. Oh, and one other thing I'll share with you as we're approaching the 100,000 is that I made the same mistake 4 straight times. I'm so glad you didn't see it, but I do have to confess. As I build each of these, you know how they'll build the path that goes out and automatically connects? So I had these 2 paths built. Then I'd build one of these, and it would show the path on either side. Well, then when I got around to building the building, the path wouldn't automatically get built along with it, and I would forget the path, and the people would be stuck inside as if they were in prison. So I did that once. Then I built another one. I did it again. And by the way, I used the money when I sold the train to build this factory and these 2 houses for it, these 2 flats, and I did it a 3rd and a 4th time where I built this and forgot that. I'd look at my factories and go, I didn't get any extra people. And then I'd look at the happiness, and it would be awful. It would be down here somewhere, and I'm going, oh my, what have I done? And then I'd realize it was the same problem. So 4 straight times I did that. Maybe there's a shot that next time it comes up, I'll get it right. We'll see. We will see. Now, if we can cut that 30,000 for fabric down to, I don't know, 8,000 for chemicals or something like that, then we've really done something good for our economy. And on top of that, what it says is where we really need to go next. We need a university to get some research started and to get some schooling for our our young folks so that they can become university graduates. There's our 100,000. That did not take that long. Let's build this guy. Let's build our warehouse, and let's build the connections between them. We need all of that. And let's build one of these flats and see what we have left in terms of money. Okay, we've got plenty to get some people started here. And we want to tell these people to work right there. And they can, by the way, walk up to the grocery store. And then, of course, from the grocery store, they can go to the downtown, so to speak, to do the cinema, pub, and hospital. The weakness in this is actually if you end up with, I want to get rid of that, so I want to build that. I don't want to be looking at that. I did, by the way, pave some of the roads to make our exports faster and to make our ambulance faster getting over to this area. So there we go. Now we're starting to get people into fabric, so we need to start importing. Ooh, that's going to cut us close. We better not go broke. I think we've got some trucks headed in with exports, and it's a good thing. I cut that a little close. Well, the good news is trucks still run even without the power. So with the train, if you did that and you hit 0 and the train couldn't run, you could have a problem. All right, so how are we looking here? We've got a handful of workers. They're all off, shopping and doing all that good stuff. But now it's starting to pick up. We're getting some workers in. We're getting some production. We're getting fabric into this. We should start seeing fabric coming over here. Now we're importing 8 tons, so we're not seeing it yet. But we should be able to start seeing the fabric from this should move through the warehouse over here. That's the plan. All right, I'm going to turn imports off. And see what happens. See if he starts using the fabric from the warehouse. I've run a test on this, and it does pass through. And I didn't have to do any changes to anything, really. I just kind of imported to the fabrics, and it passed through the warehouse over to the cloth, or to the clothing. I think that's what's happening, because I think I see this fabric going up and then I see it going down occasionally. Am I crazy? So he's not going all the way to zero. He's maintaining production. He must be taking it out of here. Let's try this one. He's definitely maintaining production, so he's got to be getting it just in time from the fabric, from the warehouse, to keep his production up. So that must be working. This one's slowly eating through his stock. I think that's working. We'll come back to it and check it in a minute. And we don't even have a whole lot of people working in here yet. Once we get our money back up, we'll build this other one and assign it to work here as well. And we should be able to keep that fabric humming. Oh, there we go. Look at this. Our fabric imports are not rising. That's a beautiful thing. And yet we're producing cloth, so hooray. All right, so we've got a fabric business going. It's far from optimized. We need one more of these, which we can build now. And we'll put somebody in it so we can tell them to go work there at the fabric factory. And as we get some money, we'll recruit some more immigrants into this building, this flat, and we'll have a full-blown busy fabric output. And see, these guys are just, that's what they're doing. They're just getting fabric just in time from this warehouse to maintain their production, because this 52, I would not see it being, that's about right. So looking good, looking good. We may even end up with a surplus of fabric that we could export. Depends on how the balance of these staffing between all these goes, of course. And we haven't needed any extra power for him. He's getting power from right over here. These guys are getting power, yes. Yes, okay, good. So that fabric number is sitting there. That's what we want. This is construction. This stuff down here, these last 5 were to do some of the construction probably of that. Last month we had 48,000 in fabric. So see, our chemicals are 4,000. Which is significantly less than what we were doing before in fabric imports. I'm recruiting each of these up to about 100. That's kind of where I want to go. We'll leave some headspace for growth and children becoming an adults and what have you. And both of these flats can walk to the kindergarten and they can walk to the school and the shopping. So these folks, over time, their happiness should go up and up. It is. Here's a guy that's only a 64. Let's see what he does when he's full-time. He needs food and sport. That should be easy. Here he goes. He's going to the shopping center. He's getting food. He's walking to the football field. He's playing a little soccer, as we would call it, and his happiness should go up when he hits 16 hours of free time. There we go. All right, good deal. So we've managed to bring fabrics online and make our clothing industry what should be significantly more profitable, and continue to support supplying clothing to all our citizens. And what I'd like to do to wrap up this episode is get this farm going out here. So it's going to go through about 10 tons of crops a day. The food factory is going to go through about, let's say 70%, 28. So it's about 3 times more need of food than the fabric shop. Look at this, we're actually slightly ahead on our distillery. Oh, we got lots of stuff to bring in. Got lots of stuff in the field. Oh, good, good, good. And one thing I'm interested in seeing is when we have these massive farms out here, will we even need to have a second agro farm assigned to these same fields, double cover, just to get the benefit from them? We'll see. I kind of hope we do have that problem. All right, see, there's very little in there now, so we basically got a as needed kind of thing going on here, and we're barely keeping up. Even as much as we're producing, we're barely keeping up with the needs of these clothing factories. Yeah, we spent our money last month on immigrant invitations, which makes sense. But our fabrics, we cut the fabrics off. Chemicals were only 7,600, and crops are still our biggie. There goes the truck exporting from this one. There we go. Now we've got enough people, pretty good mix in these two flats to work in this. Keep this up at a pretty good level. Now the question to ask is, are we producing enough fabric to keep these clothing shops as busy as they could be? Because if we aren't, we would be better off importing fabric in here to make sure that these guys can work at capacity. So isn't that much better? We've got 21,000 in revenue from clothes, and we've only spent, 4,000 in chemicals versus we would have been more like 15,000 of fabric the way it was going. All right, so we made some progress. All right, let's stop right there. I did want to do the farms, but let's not let this get too long. So what did we get done? Obviously, we brought fabrics on board. We've reduced the cost of our imports that we need to produce the clothing by shifting it back from importing fabrics, which is a finished good, to importing chemicals, which are a finished good too. They're expensive, but you don't need a ton of them for the fabrics. Only half a ton for 5 tons of fabric. And we added a few more crops that we need. We've also got the potential, and this was kind of offline, to do this, to set up this big farm. I'll probably go ahead and just set that up. You've seen that before. It's no big deal. And as we said, we sold off. We've started doing all of our deliveries by truck for this short haul. It just makes perfect sense. And our economy's looking a little bit better. It's still not awesome, but I just keep spending money. And that's going to be the pattern. I'm just going to keep spending money as we get it until we feel like we've got something solid going here. Because we still need to do meat and electronics. And to do electronics or to do the chemicals that we'd like to be producing, we're going to have to get a university. So as soon as we get some money going, we're going to have to get into building this baby up. And, we want to do power too. Want to get power going, and we've got our coal mine set up. We've got the space here to run the coal down. We can set up our, maybe with these farms here, we'll scoot the coal, send the coal this way, and do our processing over in here, and power plants over here maybe. And then this is going to be kind of the capital where we're going to throw in the Communist Party, whatever. I may even just blow up parts of this and redesign it, rethinking it, because I built it originally with the rail system. I was going to do a whole lot of rail and stuff like that. And I've really, I think what I'd like to do is stay with this theme of walking communities. And if we do that, we can build walking communities here, and they'll work great, and we won't have a bunch of expenses or headaches with buses and trains and stuff running all over the place. And now I know, in a way, no trains, no fun, but nah, we'll just keep doing our walking communities. They're very efficient, and we'll go from there and get our power. So I think in the next episode, obviously we're going to work on getting this farm up and running, since it's all laid out and ready to go, and it won't cost too much to get it going. I would guesstimate, let's see, 62, 30s, 90. Oh, look, we already built the connection. We built it when we built those. So that's done. 90 and 4. 94, let's call it 100,000 to get these buildings done. I've already got power run out there and built. So 100 grand there, and then we'll have to buy all the vehicles. So we'll have to let this run up to about 140, 150. So I'll do that offline and get this thing fired up. And when we come back, then we'll talk about how are we going to get coal going and power. And I know lots of you want to see the construction stuff. And so we'll look into that. We'll get a quarry and some gravel and bricks from the coal and all that good stuff, and see if we can't set up our construction materials here. And that's where we'll also plan ahead and think about trains, some sort of cargo loading here, so that when we're ready to do building in another place, like say out here at this nice big lake where there's a lot of oil, and we can put a refinery out here and ship our materials out there easily. Plus we got, if we want to get really into the serious power business, we've got this whole area here that we did as Mansk in the other playthroughs, which is a great area, right? Well, as we know, this is a big seam of coal, runs all through here. All the coal you could want right in through here. All right, so I hope you got something out of that, but I think you can see the pattern of what we're trying to do is just provide something for our folks, find a way to increase its margins by reducing the cost of imports to support it, and then just adding another one. So start with alcohol, then food, then clothing, then the fabrics to support the clothing, the crops to support all three of those. And we're going to continue that process. The next two are meat and electronics, and as I said, to get to electronics and even chemicals, we're going to have to get our university going. So we've got to get into the school stuff, and we've got to set up a manufacturing, the ability to make all the stuff we need to do construction, and then we'll get into construction. I promise we will do some construction, but that's not, I know that's the part everybody loves, or so many people are drawn to this game because of that, but I'm still playing a tycoon game, so bear with me. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Workers and Resources Soviet Republic video. Thank you.